On this side, I'm going to go for Real Madrid to beat the Arsenal.
They called them raw, fragile, unready for Europe's elite. But now, Barcelona, Inter Milan, Arsenal and PSG are rewriting the script. With powerhouses like Manchester City, Real Madrid and Bayern Munich already eliminated, Inter and Barca are chasing their treble dreams. Or we might have a new Champions League winner if PSG or Arsenal break their curse. Over 60% of preseason predictions failed to even name two of these teams. Yet, here they are, not just surviving, but thriving. In this video, let's break down how each club defied the odds, redefined their identity, and is now just 2 games from glory. Let's start with the unexpected 4 and where they started. The new format of the Champions League was guaranteed to bring changes, but no one expected it to be an era-defining season in September last year. We'll finally have a new winner this year, or the one who hasn't tasted glory in a long time. Barcelona started this Champions League season under a heavy financial debt and the sudden unexpected sacking of Xavi, who was expected to be a long-term changemaker in Blaugrana. The squad was stitched together with academy prospects, free agents, and players operating under salary adjustments. Critics didn't hold back. They were labelled too raw, too chaotic, and too reliant on teenagers. The Champions League exit was a disaster last year, and they even lost the La Liga. Hansi Flick had only just arrived, and he had to inherit a team of teenagers with an identity crisis. Few believe this squad had the maturity or consistency to thrive at the highest level in Europe. On the other hand, Inter Milan's European campaign was halted very early by Atletico Madrid last season. Although they won Serie A, many doubted whether Simone Inzaghi's pragmatic system could translate to success against Europe's most aggressive attacking sides. Despite a strong form domestically, Inter were seen as a team that could contain but not conquer. The general consensus about them was a defensively solid unit with serious attacking limitations. At the same time, Nasser Al-Khelaifi in France was furious over his loss to Florentino Perez. Paris Saint Germain were written off by almost every pundit following the departure of Kylian Mbappe. For the first time in this century, the club lacked a headline superstar. What remained was a young, rapidly evolving team under Luis Enrique, trying to develop chemistry in real time. The steps were positive and the transition was expected, but no one rated them as European title contenders. Last but not least, Arsenal, they had the problems of Arsenal. Under Mikel Arteta, they returned to the Champions League last year, but had a heartbreak in the Allianz Arena against Bayern Munich. The emotional baggage of losing the league after being top for the maximum days and losing to Bayern despite dominating the game was heavy. The group was labelled as bottlers or crumblers under pressure. They were still viewed as an inexperienced squad with flair but not enough grit to go the distance. All 4 of these teams weren't just underdogs, they were long shots. So, their presence here is not just remarkable, but historic as well. We are witnessing one of the best seasons in the world of football. Moving on, let's take a look at the road to the semis and each club's journey. The semi-final saga is rarely reached without overcoming adversity. Each of these 4 clubs, they've taken a unique and compelling path to arrive here, marked by comebacks, statement wins, and crucial turning points. Barcelona's group stage campaign, that began with turbulence, an opening defeat, and again a red card after the nightmares of the quarter-final last year. It raised questions about their readiness. However, the kids from La Masia responded with intensity and intelligence. When the same moment came against Benfica, the keeper and every player fought like warriors for 70 minutes, despite 10 men on the field. Hansi Flick has forged this team under fire, which is arguably playing the best football in the world at the moment. They smashed every big team they faced this year by at least 4 goals, which shows their sharpness and tactical adaptability. When Barca is bringing a creative storm against every team, Inter Milan built their journey on discipline and tactical excellence. Their group stage featured clean sheets and low-risk football that prioritized control over chaos. The real breakthrough came in the quarter-finals against Bayern Munich. Few expected them to completely outplay the German giants, But Inzaghi's system executed a defensive masterclass. By neutralizing Bayern's high press and exploiting space in transitions, Inter sent a clear message. This wasn't the same team that exited early last year, or the team that suffered heartbreak against Man City 2 years earlier. Arsenal is the only team least unexpected here. However, their campaign has also been fueled by revenge and ambition. They showed a commanding and composed group stage, but it was the knockout phase that transformed perceptions. The 7-1 victory against PSV in the round of 16 sent shivers down their opponent's spine at first. The real highlight, however, was the quarter-final against Real Madrid. Arsenal outclassed Europe's most successful club, both home and away. It was the football of controlling possession and dictating pace. This wasn't a smash and grab, it was domination. If Arsenal have beaten Real Madrid, their opponents in the semi-finals have neutralized the hot favorite, Liverpool. PSG's group stage performance, it lacked spark and raised concerns. However, Luis Enrique's side turned on the heat, and against the team that had Ballon d'Or contenders, they showed bravery in possession and courage without the ball. The pressing intensity of their midfield trio, it overwhelmed Liverpool's rhythm. In the quarter-finals, they continued that momentum, defeating an Aston Villa side that had grown in confidence throughout the season. Each club's journey speaks volumes. They didn't reach the Final Four by chance, they earned every step by sharp strategy. Let's dive deep tactically and see what has worked for them. During this deep dive, let's take a real look at why these 4 teams are still standing. Narratives and momentum play their role, but no team can reach the Champions League semi-final without tactical clarity. Each of the remaining clubs, they bring a distinct strategic identity, with well-drilled systems designed to exploit their strengths and cover their weaknesses. Barcelona has significantly evolved under Hansi Flick. His preference for direct transitions and disciplined positioning, it's transformed a previously struggling side into a European monster. Their defensive structure, it relies on a calculated offside trap supported by intelligent pressing from midfielders like De Jong and Pedri. Offensively, creativity flows through wide areas, with Lamine Yamal providing unpredictable movement and Rafinha stretching defensive lines. The chemistry between midfield and attack is strengthened by Flick's insistence on structured rotations. Lewandowski, despite his age, has found renewed efficiency in front of the goal, supported by a confident and balanced midfield. That's why this front trio is leading every offensive chart. At the back, Pau Cubarsí has stepped up as revelation, forming a calm partnership with Inigo Martinez, the Viking. Inter Milan, well, they're doing the exact opposite of what Barcelona is doing. They continue to thrive through tactical compactness. Simone Inzaghi's back three system, it maximized defensive coverage and control in tight spaces. The wingbacks push high, but always with discipline. Nicolo Barella is pivotal, covering ground, disrupting transitions, and initiating counterattacks. Inter's forward play, it relies on precision. Lautaro Martinez has been ruthless in front of the goal, who is netting well-timed balls through narrow channels. Their strength lies in minimizing the chaos. When defending a lead, they become nearly impenetrable. Paris Saint Germain is again completely different. In fact, they are the most unpredictable side in the competition. Luis Enrique's philosophy, it blends structured positional play with spontaneous creativity. Mid-match, PSG often shifts from a back four to a hybrid system, disorienting opponents. Zaire Emery and Vitinha have grown into the heartbeat of the midfield. Their ability to draw pressure and then release Dembele into open space, it's created countless chances. Although occasionally volatile, this system progresses through movement and controlled brilliance. When their midfield is on song, they become super fluid and impossible to read. Perhaps the most driven team among these four is Arsenal under Mikel Arteta. Their pressing is intelligent and layered, designed to win the ball high and compress opponents quickly. Odegaard orchestrates their attacks with timing and vision, while Declan Rice secures the middle third with dominance. William Saliba has matured into a world-class defender capable of shutting down both aerial threats and technical forwards. Arsenal's fusion of high pressing, fluid build-up, and positional interchange has made them difficult to disrupt. Let's talk about who holds the advantage. What we're talking about here is a real matchup masterclass. Every duel becomes magnified in the high-stakes game. The semi-finals won't just be a tactical battle, they will be a psychological chess match. Styles will clash, formations will evolve, and individual duels, they could tilt the balance. Let's break down both semi-final matches and examine where each team could find an edge. Barcelona versus Inter Milan, it'll be a classic example of what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. Barcelona wants to dominate possession, drag defenders out with wide overloads, and create triangles in the final third. Inter, they'll sit deep, remain compact, and wait for the moment to strike. The key duel will be between Barca's attacking midfielders and Inter's defensive spine. Pedri and De Jong must find ways to break through the vertical compactness. Lewandowski, he'll be missed heavily in this match, and an injury to him can prove catastrophic. However, in his absence, Ferran Torres will need intelligent movement to avoid isolation. On the other side, Inter will look to target the huge space behind Barca's high line. If Barella can release Lautaro early in transition, Inter could expose one of Barcelona's most dangerous tendencies. Wojciech Szczęsny's role would be instrumental, as there can be 1v1s against him. PSG versus Arsenal would also be a very interesting clash between youth and structure. Both teams are tactically flexible and capable of controlling tempo. Arsenal's strength, it lies in their pressing triggers and their ability to control zones of play. Odegaard's movement between the lines could disrupt PSG's shape. Saka's battle with Nuno Mendes promises to be explosive, while Declan Rice will look to dominate Vitinha physically and prevent PSG from building fluently through the middle. PSG, however, thrives in moments of unpredictability. Their fluid front three, led by Dembele and Zaire Emery, can dismantle pressing systems with quick rotations. If PSG can bypass Arsenal's press and isolate defenders, they'll create high-quality chances. Key factors to monitor across both ties include the order of the home and away matches. Teams hosting the second leg, they'll have a psychological edge, especially if the first match is close, or it won't matter at all. If a team bruises the game in the first leg, like Barca did against Dortmund and Arsenal did against Real Madrid in the quarter-finals. Tactically, we can say that the advantage may tilt toward the sides with more stable defensive structures, like Inter and Arsenal. However, flair and flexibility, along with the quality of football that PSG and Barca are playing, they can flip the situation at any moment. No side is clearly dominant, which makes both matchups all the more compelling. Finally, let's talk about the legacy which is at stake and what a final means for each team. Reaching a Champions League final, it's not just about lifting a trophy. For these four clubs, it would represent a chance to reshape identity, validate years of planning, and write a new chapter into their history. The legacy implications for each are enormous and profoundly different. Barcelona, they're not just trying to win, they're trying to restore belief in a model that many said was not sustainable. With their reliance on youth, tactical structure, and academy culture, this campaign could become the modern-day sequel to the Guardiola era. A final appearance would legitimize Hansi Flick's philosophy and silence critics who doubted the club's post-Messi future. If they do go on to win, the story shifts from financial crisis to one of the most inspiring rebuilds in European football. Inter Milan, they're not as desperate as Barca, but their scars are still fresh from the 2023 final. That defeat, it motivated a restructured approach, smarter recruitment, more tactical refinement, and emotional growth. For Simone Inzaghi and veterans like Acerbi and Barella, reaching another final would mean redemption. It would confirm that the club's resurgence is more than a domestic story. A Champions League trophy, it'd signal that their 2023 run was no fluke, but part of a sustained era at the top level. Paris Saint Germain is stepping into a new identity. The Mbappe era has closed, but a new collective vision is emerging. If they reach the final without a superstar at the center, they send a message that PSG's DNA has changed. It's become less about individuals, more about team chemistry, tactical trust, and long-term strategy. Luis Enrique's project is still young, but a final would prove they've already turned a critical corner. Lastly, but certainly not least, Arsenal has had a secret affair with heartbreak in the recent past. This time, they're chasing something generational. It has been 19 years since their last Champions League final, and many questioned whether they could ever return to that level. A final this year, it had marked the culmination of Arteta's rebuild. It would redefine the club's image from promising but inconsistent to elite once again. For players like Odegaard, Saka and Rice, this is a moment to become legends in the making. A final would not just reward performance, it would rewrite legacy. Each of these clubs began the season with questions. Now they're 180 minutes from rewriting history. Whether it ends in triumph or heartbreak, this semi-final stage will define careers, reshape legacies, and remind the world why football never follows a script. So, who do you think takes it all? Drop your predictions in the comments below.